Stoic, battle-hardened killing machines who never surrendered and always won. Over millennia, Spartans have acquired near-mythic status as history's hardest men. But a new book aims to debunk that myth, showing up the legendary warriors as a completely average military force who actually lost more battles than they won. Mike Cole, himself a veteran who served 3 tours in Iraq, argues that Spartans were not superhumans but ordinary men, as likely to surrender as fight to the death, as likely to engage in diplomacy as pick up arms, as likely to blunder on the battlefield as to win glory. Even their most famous battle, Thermopylae in 480 BC, which was depicted in the film 300, ended with a crushing defeat that saw King Leonidas' head put on a pike, Cole points out. The myth is that Spartans were the biggest badasses in military history, Cole said while promoting his new book, The Bronze Lie. And this is just not true at all, in any way, and the only way that a person could think that it is true is if that person had not read any sources on the Spartans. Cole admits that there are very few first-hand Spartan sources, and that almost all of what we know about them comes from outsiders who wrote about them. But this, he argues, was part of ancient Sparta's PR tactics, leaving themselves a mystery and allowing others to fill in the blanks, creating myths that persist today. Those myths include that Spartans never surrendered, shunned wealth and luxury, could not be corrupted or bribed, and killed off children deemed weak to maintain their physical prowess. In fact, the Spartan king Agesilaus II had a clubfoot, many generals and leaders were deposed on charges of bribery, and what contemporary records do exist show Spartans often surrendered when battles turned against them. In fact, an overall tally of Sparta's battles shows that their reputation as super soldiers does not stand up to scrutiny. What emerges is an utterly average military record, he told the Casting Through Ancient Greece podcast. They were no better than anyone else, they were no worse than anyone else. They have some truly amazing victories and they have some truly ignominious defeats. As an example, he points to the Battle of Sphacteria, which was fought in 425 BC between the Spartans and Athenians during the Peloponnesian War. During a naval battle in nearby waters, Sparta had positioned some 480 hoplites, their lead heavy infantry, on the island of Sphacteria, off the southern coast of Greece, to kill any Athenians who happened to come ashore. But the Spartan navy was captured, leaving the hoplites stranded. For 70 days they survived on the island in the midsummer heat with barely any food or water before the Athenians finally attacked. Despite being cut off for more than 2 months, the Spartans fought their guts out, Cole said, occupying high ground at one end of the island that backed onto a sheer cliff, which they believed would stop them from being flanked. But, to their surprise, the Athenians managed to scale the cliff and surrounded the hoplites. Rather than fight to the death, they surrendered. And, once the Spartans had surrendered, their countrymen didn't disown them but fought to get them returned home safely. Even the Spartans' best-known battle at Thermopylae did not happen as most people believe it did, Kull writes. The Spartan force actually comprised some 7,000 men, including Thebians, Thespians and enslaved Helots. They held out for 3 days of actual fighting before being outflanked by the Persians, who did not discover a hidden route around them, but outfought a force of some 1,000 Greeks that Leonidas put there to stop them. Only after being outflanked did a 60-year-old King Leonidas take his famed force of 300 Spartans, who were likely accompanied by several hundred more support troops, to safeguard the retreat of the main army. Outmaneuvered and hopelessly outnumbered, the Spartans were killed. Xerxes then marched into Greece and sacked Athens. Unlike in popular legend, Colorigs, Leonidas' march to Thermopylae was not a bold suicide mission because he did not expect to lose. And, while Xerxes' invasion of Greece did ultimately fail, it is hard to argue that Leonidas' defeat at Thermopylae was the cause, he added. In fact, he says, the defeat was so demoralizing and so huge that Themistocles, a famous Athenian, thought that all of Greece was about to surrender to Persia. So he spun the defeat at Thermopylae into this heroic last stand from which the modern myth was born.